Welcome to Yumemakura Kodan with Kyokudo Nanshun. Here there is a comfortable and fluffy dream pillow for you to rest your heavy head and send you to a quiet place. Tonight is a heartfelt story between a father and a son, and also cherry pie. Yum! So sit back, close your eyes, and rest your heavy head on the dream pillow as you listen to tonight's Kodan tale, George Washington and his father's favorite cherry tree. When you think of the first president of the United States, George Washington, one story may immediately pop into your mind, the story of when young Washington cut down his father's favorite cherry tree. It is a legend, but it is a story many people love. However, when you hear this story, you may wonder, why did Washington cut down his father's favorite tree? It is through the magic of Kodan that I attempt to add to this very famous legend. It is spring 1730. George's father and mother, Augustine and Mary Ball Washington, live in Pope's Creek in the colony of Virginia. On the plantation they grew tobacco, but Augustine also found something else. Mary, did you know we have a grove of cherry trees? Cherry trees? Yeah. What do we do with them? Well, their wood is very good for making furniture. We don't have that many trees, and besides, they look very pretty in full bloom. They are like fluffy white clouds over the field. Well, how about the cherries? Let's pick some and I'll see what I can do with them. And so workers were brought to the cherry trees. They picked the cherries and delivered them to Mary. Mary looked at the baskets of cherries. What can I do with these cherries? She bit into a cherry and gave it a taste. Oh my, that's bitter. I think I'll try to make a pie with them and see how it tastes then. And so Mary took some of the cherries out to the kitchen house. Working in the kitchen house were two servants, the cook Katie and her maid Jane. Mary calls Katie. Katie, I have some wild cherries. I want to make a pie with them. Yes, ma'am. I will use that cookbook you gave me. Ah, yes, there should be a pie recipe in there. Anyways, I would like to have the pie for dessert after tonight's dinner. Yes, ma'am. I will get right on it, ma'am. After Mary had left, Jane, have you gotten the oven ready? Almost, Katie. It's still got a bit of time. Good. A pie has just been added to tonight's menu. A cherry pie. Oh my, I've never seen a cherry pie. I got a recipe here. Here, give me some flour, salt, butter, milk, and sugar. Let's put this together before the oven's ready. And so Katie and Jane start to work on the cherry pie. That evening, after the Washingtons had eaten their dinner, Augustine, I had a special dessert prepared for tonight. Would you like to try it? Sure. Is it the cherries from the cherry trees? You'll see. Jane brings out a dish covered with a white cloth. When the cloth is lifted, a pie? That's interesting. How does it taste? I haven't tried it yet. You try it first. Jane cuts a slice of the pie and serves it to Augustine. Augustine picks up his dessert fork and scoops up a bit of the pie. Mary, your pie crusts are always so nice and flaky. Now, how's the taste? Augustine slowly brings the bit of pie to his mouth. Mary, this is absolutely delicious. Do you really like it? Mary, I love it. Here, give it a try. Mary took a plate and cut off a bit of the pie with her dessert fork. Yes, this is very good. Good? It's great. More, please. Augustine ate slice after slice after slice until the pie was all gone. Delicious. Mary, you could do something with this. Maybe even sell them. Sell them? We only have a small group of trees, and we can only get the fruit in the spring. It can be a summer treat. And since cherry trees are rare around here, I'm sure you could make a few extra shillings from your pies. What do you think? Well, if it does bring in a few extra shillings, I don't see why not. And so next spring, look, Augustine, The cherry trees are blossoming. Soon it will be almost time to pick cherries. And it was soon after that that a new harvest of cherries was picked. When summer came, Mary had Katie the cook working hard in the kitchen. The Washington farm soon smelled like freshly baked cherry pie. In the kitchen, far from the main house, Jane the maid was starting to get hungry. I wish I could just have one piece. Don't you dare, Jane. Those are for the mistress and the master. Don't you make me get in trouble. But they look so good. Here, don't let anybody see you. Take a cherry from this filling I made. It's so... Shh, Jane. Wash your hands. Let's finish making these pies. They made pie after pie after pie, the smell wafting out of the kitchen house. As summer got underway, the surrounding villages decided to have a summer festival. Mary and Augustine had some pies carried to the festival to sell. The villagers were very surprised. Cherry pies? Are these cherries from around here? What does it taste like? Is it bitter? Not at all. Here, try a piece. The cherries are so soft and chewy. The crust is so buttery and flaky. This is the best pie I've ever had. I'll take 2 pies. Thank you very much. And then more people and more people and more people came. Mary's pies were the hit of the festival. She sold out of pies and was left with a small purse of shillings. Augustine, look. It's from the pies we sold. Mary, this is absolutely wonderful. This should be a new colonial tradition, the cherry pie. On February 22nd, 1732, Augustine and Mary had their first child, a healthy baby boy. As Mary held up the precious bundle to her husband, Augustine, meet your son. Mary, thanks to God, our son has safely arrived. We shall name him George. And so George was welcomed into the family. Six years later, the Washington family moved to Ferry Farm in Virginia. Augustine took 6-year-old George along to survey the land. When they came home, Mary, how did it go, Augustine? Did George behave? Yes, he did. He was very helpful, weren't you, George? I helped Father in the field. Good job, George. Go get something sweet from Katie. George ran off to see Katie in the kitchen house. So, how is the land? Do we have any cherry trees here? We have one. It's not a very big tree, but it should give us maybe a small basket of cherries. Oh well, at least we can still make a few pies for a special occasion. I just wish every day was a special occasion. One spring day, outside on Ferry Farm, George... Yes, Father? George runs to his father. George, I want you to help me with something. Here, you will need this. In his hands was a brand new hatchet. Now, George, to use an axe is a big responsibility. I want you to listen very carefully. Go clear out some of the small branches over there. It will help me to survey this area better. Do you understand? Yes, Father, I understand. Young George carefully takes the hatchet from his father. It's heavy. Yes, it is. Be careful when you use it. George nods, and he slowly walks off to look for small sticks. Let's see. I need to clear out some of the small branches here. I've seen those before. Here's some. George starts to run. He lifts the hatchet with his 2 tiny hands, and with a ting, 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 he starts to cut the small branches away. This is so easy. I can do this whole area. And so the little boy went to a group of small trees. He took the hatchet, brought it above his shoulder, and swung down. Chop, chop, chop. Small trees came down with each single swoop. Small tree stumps were left behind. At that moment, Augustine was wondering what was taking George so long and went to go check on him. When he found George, he found his son bundling sticks and some small branches, and he found a small tree stump where Augustine's prized cherry tree once stood.
"Oh, my lord, no! The cherry tree! George, come here!"
When George heard his father's voice, he was surprised and turned around. He held the hatchet in both hands and walked up to his father.
"George, what happened to this tree? This tree was very important to me and your mother. It made cherries for us to make pies. Now look at it. The tree is gone. We won't be able to harvest cherries from it again. What happened to it?"
Small little George started to tremble. He looked down at his hatchet. "Father, I cannot lie. I cut down this tree. You told me to be responsible. I wasn't very responsible, was I? Father, I'm sorry."
"George."
Augustine, shocked by the words of his young son, fell to his knees.
"My son, your honesty is worth more than 1,000 cherry trees. Thank you for being honest with me. You were very brave in doing so. Now, I'll show you how to survey the land here."
Father and son got to work without any more discussion, and the fallen cherry tree was left on the ground. This cherry tree became a symbol to George Washington's bravery and honesty, which he needed years later when he led the Continental Army against Britain to gain America's independence, and the cherry pie became America's traditional pie, a wonderful summer treat. This was George Washington and his father's favorite cherry tree. Now rest on your dream pillow as peacefully as Katie the cook after a long, hard day's work in the kitchen, or listen to another relaxing Kodan tale. Should you need your dream pillow again to rest your weary head, you can always find it here at Yumemakura Kodan with Kyokudo Nanshun. Dewa.